What if the San Francisco 49ers are preparing to shock the entire NFL by trading up in the draft for a quarterback, while the entire league believes Brock Purdy is their unquestioned franchise leader? And what if the move is not about replacing him, but about protecting themselves from the one mistake that destroys Super Bowl windows every single year? The question that has quietly started to circulate is uncomfortable but unavoidable. Is Brock Purdy truly elite in a vacuum? Or is he the most efficient operator of Kyle Shanahan's offensive ecosystem, a system that has elevated multiple quarterbacks over the years and turned structure into production? The 49ers are in a rare position where they are contenders right now, but they are also approaching a financial inflection point that will define the next 5 years of their roster construction, because once Purdy transitions from bargain contract advantage to high-end quarterback salary, the math changes, the depth shrinks, and the margin for error tightens dramatically. Teams across the league have watched what happened when the Kansas City Chiefs drafted Patrick Mahomes under Alex Smith, allowing development without desperation, and that decision fundamentally reshaped how aggressive front offices think about quarterback timelines. It proved that elite upside must be pursued before necessity forces panic, and it demonstrated that patience paired with boldness creates dynasties. The Chiefs did not draft Mahomes because Smith failed. They drafted him because upside at quarterback is the single greatest competitive advantage in modern football, and that mindset is now embedded in executive strategy rooms across the NFL. So when we ask whether the 49ers could trade up for a surprise quarterback, the immediate reaction from fans is emotional loyalty to Purdy. But front offices are not emotional. They are probabilistic, and probabilities demand insulation against risk. Purdy has been efficient, poised, accurate within structure, and highly effective when surrounded by elite playmakers and strong protection. But the real question evaluators ask is whether he can transcend structure when chaos arrives in January against the league's most disruptive defenses. If the 49ers privately believe his ceiling is high but not transcendent, the calculus shifts from comfort to contingency planning. Trading up for a high upside quarterback would not signal distrust. It would signal ruthless sustainability. The reality is that championship windows collapse faster than fans realize, often because teams overcommit to the version of their quarterback they hope exists rather than the one objectively measured on tape. Purdy excels in timing concepts, anticipatory throws, and rhythm-based progression reads, yet when pressure forces off-platform improvisation outside the system's defined landmarks, the variance increases, and that is where the league's elite quarterbacks separate themselves. This is not an indictment. It is differentiation. The 49ers know that the NFC is evolving, with teams investing in explosive quarterback traits rather than just efficient operators. And if Shanahan believes that an elite trait-driven passer could elevate his already lethal scheme into something historically unstoppable, the temptation becomes strategic rather than reactive. Drafting a quarterback quietly while publicly committing to Purdy would create leverage, internal competition, and developmental optionality, all without sacrificing the current window. Financially, it also matters. A rookie quarterback contract provides structural flexibility that allows aggressive spending elsewhere, and if Purdy's extension climbs into top-tier territory, the 49ers may want a cost-controlled alternative developing behind him as insurance against injury, regression, or cap strain. The modern NFL punishes teams that lack contingency planning at quarterback. Once injuries hit or performance dips, desperation trades follow, and desperation trades drain draft capital and future flexibility. A proactive trade-up avoids desperation pricing. Critics will argue that this feels reminiscent of previous quarterback gambles, and they will point to the Trey Lance experiment as evidence that San Francisco should avoid quarterback volatility. But there is a fundamental difference between swinging for necessity and swinging for leverage. Lance was drafted as a presumed future starter with raw traits, but limited experience, whereas a surprise trade-up now would likely target a prospect with specific developmental alignment to Shanahan's system, someone groomed intentionally without the pressure of immediate replacement expectations. That distinction matters because development timelines collapse under forced acceleration. If the 49ers draft a quarterback while publicly reinforcing Purdy as the starter, they create an environment where growth occurs without chaos. Another layer to consider is market perception. Quarterback value inflation is relentless. Each offseason resets the market. If Purdy's camp negotiates aggressively based on production and playoff success, the 49ers will have to determine whether paying elite money for high-efficiency performance aligns with their internal grading of his independent ceiling. This is where Patrick Mahomes altered expectations. He did not merely execute structure. He expanded it, bending defensive geometry with arm talent and improvisational genius. Since that draft selection, general managers have prioritized ceiling over safety. Insurance is no longer about backup competence. It is about preserving access to elite potential. For the 49ers, the calculus is brutal. If Purdy is very good but not generational, do you commit fully and hope continuity wins, or do you hedge strategically to avoid stagnation? Trading up sends a message that the organization refuses to be cornered by circumstance. It says that they understand quarterback is not about sentiment, but about maximizing probability of sustained contention. Some will frame this as distrust, but internally it would be framed as optionality. The roster is built to win now, yes, but it is also aging at key positions, and quarterback cost escalation could accelerate decline in depth. By drafting a high-upside passer, the 49ers preserve flexibility to pivot if necessary. Consider also the competitive psychology inside the locker room. Competition sharpens performance. If Purdy is truly elite, internal pressure will not threaten him. If he is system elevated, pressure will reveal it. Either outcome provides clarity. From a strategic standpoint, ambiguity is dangerous. Clarity drives decision-making. There is also the tactical evolution of defenses to consider. Defensive coordinators now design hybrid pressure packages specifically to disrupt timing-based quarterbacks. Simulated pressures, disguised coverages, and interior collapse challenge anticipatory passers who rely on rhythm. If Shanahan anticipates that defensive evolution will target Purdy's strengths, drafting a quarterback with off-script dynamism could future-proof the offense. The Chiefs' blueprint was not just about drafting Mahomes. It was about embracing volatility in pursuit of dominance. That philosophy has influenced draft boards league-wide. Teams are less afraid of bold quarterback investments because the payoff dwarfs the risk when successful. For the 49ers, who have come close to ultimate success multiple times, marginal improvement at quarterback could be the final differentiator. It is uncomfortable to say because Purdy has delivered meaningful wins, but front offices must evaluate not what is sufficient, but what is optimal. The difference between sufficient and optimal is championships. Would trading up create media frenzy? Absolutely. Would it create fan division? Without question. But sustainable franchises are not built on avoiding controversy. They are built on calculated aggression. If Shanahan and the front office identify a prospect with elite arm elasticity, mobility under duress, and rapid processing upside, passing on that player purely to avoid narrative disruption would be organizational malpractice. The NFL punishes hesitation. Windows close, not with explosions, but with quiet regression. A surprise quarterback trade-up would signal that the 49ers refuse to drift. It would mean they are studying long-term leverage rather than reacting to short-term comfort. And here is the most important reality. Drafting a quarterback does not equal abandoning the current one. It equals controlling uncertainty. The Mahomes precedent proves that developmental patience combined with fearless drafting can transform a franchise trajectory for a decade. San Francisco understands this because they have been on the edge of dominance. The margin between contender and dynasty is microscopic. If they believe a high-upside quarterback prospect could widen that margin, even slightly, the logic becomes compelling. The debate will rage. Is Purdy elite or elevated? The answer may not need to be binary. He can be excellent within structure and still prompt leadership to pursue higher variance upside behind him. Insurance is not disrespect, it is discipline. In an era where quarterback injuries, contract inflation, and defensive adaptation reshape competitive balance annually, betting everything on a single projection is reckless. Trading up quietly, developing deliberately, and preserving leverage could be the smartest controversial move the 49ers ever make. The question is not whether fans would accept it. The question is whether the front office prioritizes comfort or control. And if history since Mahomes has taught executives anything, it is that control over quarterback destiny defines the modern NFL hierarchy.